This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, this is Debbie, and this is Light Up Your Worth. I'm so excited to be here today. I just absolutely love recording all of my guest interviews, and today is is just as exciting to be able to bring you in there. Got a little tongue tied there. I'm not sure why, but but today I have Shelley Tomelin. So Shelley is a fourth generational healer who wears many hats from being an energy medicine professional. She's also a Reiki Master, a trauma informed Akashic Records Consultant, and a clear channel for connecting you back to your soul's wisdom, truth, unique gifts, and talents. So she connects women back to their gentle power of the healer, the creative, the divine warrior, and the entrepreneur within. Welcome, Shelley.
Yay, that sounds so exciting. I was like, when you were reading that, I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds so amazing. I want that.
I know, right? I want that. I want to meet them.
I want to meet her. I want what she's got, what she's offering.
Yeah, right. Me
Thank
too. Me too. I'm so glad that you're here. I know as we've talked previously, you have a really beautiful story, and I love that you are a fourth generational healer. It's been, I think you're my first multi-generational healer that I've had on the show, and so I think it
you.
just has a whole other level of magic is the word that comes to me, magic and transformation that comes through
Mm.
when we step into our own divine wisdom. So
Yeah, I had a conscious awareness about that. So my grandmother on my mother's side was she was a healer that stayed in her own home, that did amazing home or healings from her home for everybody in the community. And then her father was the healer in the village, actually where I currently live, which I did not know that. I had somebody tell me that a couple years back. And I had the conscious awareness of that, of the generations and that, but it wasn't actually till this year, this summer, where it dropped into my field, like it dropped into my body, where I was like, oh, I'm actually carrying this wisdom and I'm carrying this power within me. Like it was a different than having or knowing a piece of information. But when it dropped into my body, I was like, oh, I'm carrying all this lineage inside of me and I'm carrying all this power and there's all this wisdom that's just gets passed down. So we can have trauma that gets passed down through the generations and we can have the wisdom passed down. And so I decided to embrace the wisdom and the power in that instead of focusing on the trauma, because we can do that and we can live in that place.
mm-hmm.
And there's also a definite place that where we need to look at that and we need to acknowledge and honor that there was that happened for all of us. But there's also the other piece of the light side of that is the wisdom and the power that gets passed down to us. And so I really embraced it this year, and it feels like I feel so honored to carry that. And it's something that I carry with huge respect. It's something that I feel that, it's not to be disrespected or abused or, flaunting or connecting to like ego or anything like that. It's just so sacred that needs to be really like held in a sacred space. And so I feel really honored. And I guess on a soul level, part of me chose that as well. So then I, honor myself for going, oh yeah, this is cool. And then how my story came is started stepping into that when I was like 17, and I had no idea why. But now when I look back, I see that all the pieces were like the stepping stones for me to get to where I am today. So it was like, I grew up in a family where, we're all dysfunctional. Um, like in some way, I always thought other people's had perfect families until I saw that it's in every family. And
Yes,
and
it
I was
is.
trying, yeah, yeah. And we are all super sensitive. So when we're younger, we are so sensitive to everything, and most of the time our needs never got met, or we never got seen or heard or acknowledged. So I started kind of doing my own self healing and discovery at probably like 17, 18. I started buying Louise Hayes recorder cassette tapes that I would play in my car. And I was like 18 listening to Louise talk about affirmations and self-love. And that was my very first introduction into this.
Oh, isn't
And
that powerful? I mean, Louise Hayes is such a was such a I want to say a trendsetter. That's what came to my mind, but she really paved the way for so much healing to happen.
yeah, she did. She did. She was like a pioneer, and she created so many beautiful tools that people can use that are free.
Mm.
And what I've learned is that we just need to implement them, and we've become lazy. So, we want always a quick fix. And so you have to implement all these little tools. And Louise has so many amazing books and recordings and practices that a person can apply in their life. And we just have to stick to it. We just have to make a plan and do it, just like people make a plan to go to the gym. So we also need to make a plan for our own, emotional health. And I'm finding that we are more intuitive, sensitive. We are needy creatures, needy humans, and we need to embrace that we are all those, because that's part of the feminine. We are that, and to embrace that with like care, and know like, oh, I am needy, so I need to take care of myself. And instead of pushing all that energy down and those parts of ourselves down, because that's part of us neglecting or denying those aspects of ourselves, but they actually really are some of our superpowers, like our great needs, our deep feels. And you and I are both deep feelers. Um, so when we embrace that, we don't have to fight that. And what I've learned through just working with clients is when we deny those aspects of ourselves, we actually create physical pain in our body. It's usually a lower back issue or hip area issue. It's part of our second chakra in that area. And so and men also fall into that areas when they deny their own needs and their emotions, that they have chronic pain in that area. And it's usually all blocked emotional stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What was really fascinating, what you said was that we've become lazy and actually doing the application of the work. Have you found that sometimes somebody will come to you and in one session they expect a lifetime or even multiple generational issues to be resolved in one session?
Yeah, it's happened. I tell people now, it's, prepare for the journey.
Mm-hmm.
because it is lifelong journey if people so choose. And I always tell them, dive in faster, like sooner than later, because if you do it later, you're just depriving yourself of like healing those layers and feeling joy and lightness after you take all those heavy layers of like trauma that, or shock that we may have, or heartbreak. Because if you keep putting it off and off and off, your life will actually start to fall apart more. You'll have more pain. Like, don't wait until you have like a crisis where you have to go, okay, now I have to look at myself, because the universe is always, always supporting us to step into our best self, like our soul self. So it's always giving us signs that the right people are always showing up, like different healers or, you know, programs or messages. And we're like, you know, we'll do that later, or I have no time for it. And so people have disregarded the healing that needs to happen, but it's actually it needs to become part of our daily routine, and not meaning we have to grind at it, but we have to embrace like a spiritual practice every day, whether it's grounding or journaling, which is one of my favorite. Is so easy to do, and I know, I'm sure you do it too. It's such a good way to process our emotions, especially for us women.
Mhm. It
And
is
yeah,
so powerful. It's what I have found is when I get lazy, right? I might be doing a lot of energetic healing, but there's something about journaling that allows it to really even exponentially help the healing of the release out, not just the energy work that's come in to help clear or bring in how something feels, you know, with the downloads, but to actually release it. There's something about that writing process or
yeah, yeah. It's to help us process stuff. So when I was younger, I didn't have like a counselor or somebody that I could work through stuff. I had everybody come to me. It was just you know, I was called Dear Abby in high school, and I used to tie up the phone line all the time. My dad used to get mad because it was like a party line, and that was like in the 70s. But so it was natural. It was a natural progression for myself. But the journaling was a way for me to work out my thoughts, my emotions, uncensored journaling, where you just like, you know, write all the words that you don't want to say out loud, but on the paper, and go to town on there, because it does move. We are dumping out energetic noise and just kind of like stuff we're working through, and it moves faster through our body. I find that the journaling is also connecting us to the consciousness of, say, a situation, and we get to work through it.
Mhm.
So, and it's also like, I feel that spirit is also, the universe is also helping us work through that piece as we journal.
Mhm. I like that thought. You know, that I haven't heard that before with journaling, that it can actually connect your conscious with your subconscious and how it actually has a way to come up for you. That would be like when you're free writing, when you're just writing and all of a sudden you're in that zone or the flow, and next thing you know, you've written 10 pages and you don't even know that was all kind of stuffed down in
Yeah.
within you.
Yeah, and those are all stories that are wanting to come through and be worked through. And those are all stories that can be shared with other people, like to facilitate healing and to help other people know that they aren't, you know, they aren't alone in their own healing process. Because now we're coming to the place, I feel, that it's okay to share, you know, what we've gone through, or it's actually needed for us. That's how we connect and work through. But we have been pretty quiet about, you know, our process, where we feel shame for everything what's happened to us, because we have been shamed a lot growing up. It's one of the biggest emotions I know I was carrying.
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing that when I connected with Alicia Hartzell's work, the alignments, I was able to help shame move through my body. And shame keeps us frozen. We are embarrassed, like we hide, we are afraid to speak up or show up or connect or say that we made a mistake. And I really learned how shame plays such a huge
Mm-hmm.
piece in our lives, and it does so much for people. Like um, it really blocks the healing or the potential for people to like
Mm-hmm.
step into some really amazing things.
I want to touch more on that. The shame of how much we carry with stuff that maybe we've done. It could have been just something of how we responded in a situation. I mean, to somebody, especially like when we're young, I think younger, when we don't really quite understand like the dynamics of relationships, stuff that we might have said to somebody else. The mean girl came out, and you may not even be a mean girl. And um, our parents or our friends, and how much of that as you get older or mature or start looking at it, how that really can weigh down, right? I think a lot of people have put themselves not purposefully in situations that probably weren't for their highest good. And as you start to realize and unwind that, I know, is it trauma and guilt are like the lowest vibrating energies?
Yeah, I think shame is like one of the, I think shame and it might be shame is the lowest, and then guilt, I can't remember on there, but yeah.
Mhm.
And then when we have a trauma, we feel shame about what happened, or like how we were feeling. So this goes back to really acknowledging actually how sensitive we really are and how super feely we are, especially men. And
Mhm.
they've got programmed to be, shamed for having these feelings. And this is why we have this like not healthy masculine culture right now happening.
Mhm.
But for women, is we got shamed so much that it affects like our body, how we show our body, our sexuality, like even expressing our needs, we got shamed and shut down. And then we forget to ask, we forget to use our fifth chakra to ask for what we need, because our needs are shut down, and then we can't vocalize or ask for what we need. And so it's a tough thing. And so what I want to encourage people listening is like, what are some things that are, from your past that are like creeping up, or like some traumas, like shocks to your system that are coming up for you, because those are the things that are ready to be healed. And so why I say, like, don't wait too long. Like, find somebody who can hold the space for you to work through it, because we can't do it alone.
Mhm.
It takes too long, but we will go into a spiral, or we will I always say, like, we'll knock ourselves out of the knock ourselves out of the park, where we won't want to look at it, because we'll be like, oh my god, I just like re-traumatized myself, or it's too scary. So you need someone to hold the space for you to do the hard work. And the beautiful part is it doesn't take long. So we've been conditioned and programmed that it has to take long and years, but it doesn't actually have to. Healing can happen in an instant. And when we, get to that root part, that core, things just start unraveling quickly. And there's a beautiful, like, domino effect. And it's really beautiful. And what I found, since I've been diving into working with Akashic Records,
Mhm.
and I've been building up my toolbox in there. Things happen much faster in the Akashic field. So when we open up a person's sacred diary and we go directly to their source and we see all of their stories, or their stories are all available for us, we can go in and clear the imprints of a trauma and a shock instantly, and then close the records, and then they're not carrying that anymore in their field, in their body. It's not imprinted or programmed. So I've been playing with the Akashic records more deeply because I'm seeing how fast we can shift things, sooner than taking so many years later. And we are moving into new time right now, as you know.
Right. And I know that we both met because we work with Alicia, which just so the audience knows, Alicia will be on here, because we've had so many guests, because that's how I've met so many amazing women, primarily, but with the sacred soul alignments is what we're talking about. And being able to make those shifts into and release those traumas does happen so much quicker. I can think back to when I first was introduced to the work and how she was able to download all of these sacred energies, and what I was able to process through in a relatively short period of time was life-changing. Really was. And releasing the shame or guilt about decisions, actions, or traumas that had happened. And you talk about the throat chakra, of how we may not even notice or realize. I think we all can go to a big trauma, but some of the small traumas of when we didn't voice something that we knew wasn't right, or I think the world's changing where lots more people are stepping up and talking about things that have happened. And what I think that's so interesting with this work too is when you do the work or I do the work, how it actually impacts our DNA. When we were talking about generational healing and how this work changes that. So how have you seen that when you have had, some of the work that you've done with yourself? How has that impacted, like how you're able to help somebody else, or you've seen it in your own family?
Yeah. So that's such a great piece to dive into, because it's when I was 17, 18, like being super feely, being misunderstood, not knowing how to understand my emotional states or spaces, I seeked to feel better. So that's how my own healing path started, by stepping into, well, what would make me feel good? So it started off with reflexology, then baby massage, then kinesiology, then all these other amazing modalities. And I just kept stepping. But each time that I would do, heal a piece of trauma, and I really got into the trauma work just the last few years, because I realized that we actually have to go to the bottom to kind of, get to the root, pull it out, instead of putting all this beautiful, like, whipping cream and feel good stuff on top, that really we needed to get underneath and clean that stuff up. And I wanted to first do it for myself, because I didn't like how I was feeling. It was really good to, put on a pair of jeans and a jacket, earrings, lipstick, and look great on the outside, but in the inside, we're not doing so well. And I know that a lot of people live like that, is we put up a good front, but in the inside, we're not. And it's the inside that is the most important piece, because when you clear up all your things inside, you start shining, and your light starts shining, and like your title, light up your worth, like we access our light again. And what I used to say to this came so long ago, is we're like these souls and these beings of light that emerge, that come down, and we drop into this earth, and then we get started covered up and bombarded with all these layers of, I used to say newspapers, I don't know why, all these stories actually. And it covered our light, and it covered our essence, and it covered our true self. And so then we're at midlife, and we're trying to get to that spark or that essence of ourselves. And so we're like trying to find it. But getting back to what you were saying, Debbie, is that I wanted to feel better, and I wanted to heal the relationship with my daughter, because there was a disconnect with her and I couldn't put my finger on it. So I was also wanting to create connection with her. And then I noticed with this work, then, I felt closer with my mom, and my mom had her own trauma, huge trauma from childhood. And it was a generational trauma, collective, a group of young people. And that carried on to me, and I dropped it on my daughter. And so I wanted to stop the cycle. And so with work, and I am self-led, so I keep digging and digging until I find what works, and I go to the root. I'm kind of like a no mercy. I just go down. I don't want to waste any time, because I don't know how much time I have here. We never know how much time we have here on earth. I want to feel good like every day. So I kind of push myself a little hard, but there is like a reason. But the reason also is because then I can offer those tools and the lessons and the wisdom to my clients so that they can get there faster. They can get there in a shorter amount of time. And what we all want is, we really all want to do is feel good. We can look good on the outside, but if we're not feeling good on the inside, it affects everything. It affects how we come into relationship with our pets, our friends, our family, our children, our partner, our money, even how we show our purpose as well. So it was always about, let's get the inside right. Let's get the inside right so it feels good, because then we can like kind of broadcast that out into the world, because that's where everything really stems from.
Yeah, I love that about stop the trauma. When we've been talking about the generational healing, and for those listening, if they're not familiar with Dr. Cho's work, Dispenza's work, is the epigenetics is actually a field, a scientific field that's been proven that just like we carry our hair color, our skin color, our eye color, is that we can actually carry on, like you were saying, your mom experienced a trauma, which she carried on to you, which you carried on to your daughter. And I've had the same experience, and mine wasn't, well, I guess it was kind of traumatic, but I'll use an experience to help clarify, so people listening too. And if you want to share one, depending on how sensitive it is, Shelley. But I can remember in my early 40s, I was walking and was doing a walk. I was living out in Colorado by Boulder. And I was talking to my mom about this. I started to share this reoccurring dream that I had had like as long as I could remember. And I said, I don't know why this dream just comes back every once in a while, and I'll play back my mind. And I, for the first time, actually shared it with my mom. And my mom actually witnessed that, what the dream was about, which was a bridge falling with people and vehicles on it. Like this bridge collapsed. It was a major event that happened with people around. And so she watched people, not make it, right? Basically. And she was a very, very young child. And so I never knew that, but I was seeing this. And I had no idea. I was, I think I was early 40s when I finally shared it. And so I've actually done work with that to release it, right? To release that trauma that I was never a part of, to help me with my own fear of heights.
Mm.
And it has made a huge difference, So I think uh, when people talk about, I know there's people who specialize in dreams, but that's a dream that I've had. And, who knew? Right. And I've now that I know that there's epigenetics and there's multiple people who have experienced or grew up with parents who had some really major historical traumas as well, how that gets passed on.
Wow, that's amazing. I could see how that all connects for sure with that, your experience, your mom's experience. And there's probably no one to talk about that with your mom, and it never got discussed, acknowledged, or, just even have someone to like, what I'm learning also, just the trauma, to have somebody there to comfort us
Mm-hmm.
through an experience, because then we are alone in the experience and we don't know how to deal with our feelings. And so we end up shutting them down, shutting them off, turning the switch off the feelings. And when we turn off the switch of the feelings, we turn off the switch off of our creativity, our intuition, our joy, our passion, because they are on the same kind of, they run the same, they're on the same cycle. So when we shut off one, then we shut off all those other ones. And so then, and how neat for you to like heal that, like to work through that. And then did you
Yeah,
have a conversation with your mom about that, like
we
after?
we did, because at this point I hadn't discovered this part of the work, right? Like I was doing Reiki and affirmations and that stuff, but I had not done I had not been in the Akashic Records. I had not learned how I've accessed them is through the sacred soul alignments to even understand. I'd never heard of epigenetics or Joe Dispenza or some of the other doctors who have actually, Bruce Lipton. They hadn't kind of crossed my thing. I just knew that there was something there. Um, and so it's really when you start digging into generational healing, what can actually come up. I recently read an article too about an experiment, and I can't think of the university, but it was somebody who I think it's within the last 10 years, and it's a very prominent school and it's back east in the US, of a lady who pulled together children whose parents who were survivors of the Holocaust. And so they did a whole experiment with the parents and the survivors of the Holocaust. And it was, these are Holocaust survivors are pretty, up
Yeah.
there in age, right? And so they did this experiment, and it actually was sharing some of those traumas. They actually have real, research that's been peer reviewed, explaining some of the traumas that their children have, who were not, these people were really young, really, really young, under 7, I think, for most of them, right? And so I think there's such an opportunity for generational healing, or the lands of where we live. And um,
Yeah, yeah. And it's coming all now to be healed. Now we're having the opportunity to move into that, and people are coming together to collectively do it, collaborate, to bring community into it. And so those pieces are coming up for healing. And the one thing that when you were talking that kind of popped through for me was one of the biggest traumas that we have is when we're born and we get separated from our mom, because we're meant to stay together, And so our very first trauma is right out of the womb, and we get separated from, you know, the mom we're connected to, and then we're alone. And I believe, and I know there's still more for me to learn about this and stuff. And then this is where part of, we have all of these connection traumas where we don't know how to connect with other people. We keep ourselves safe, you know, avoidant, or we disassociate and all that kind of stuff. And our true soul's desire is to be connected and is to be in relationship with other people. So being in relationship first with ourselves, like coming into right relationship with ourselves. So we're like honoring and respecting and loving. So because when we're not in connection with ourselves, and what you and I talked about before the show was, then we will self-abuse ourselves. We will you know, we will do things that aren't supportive to us, and we will work ourselves too hard. It's a form of self-abuse. I know that was me. And so it's really learning about coming back into right relationship with ourselves. And when we come back into right relationship with ourselves, where we're honoring and valuing our own selves, like for who we are and what we've been through and what we've experienced, then we call back, like we connect to our value and our worth and then when we have that, we can see that reflected back to us in the people around us, by the universe. The universe will have, like, you know, people love us and value us because we've found that for ourselves. So a lot of the work that my piece is coming back to all parts and aspects of myself. So my intuition, my needs, my feelings, my worth, my value, coming back into all my love for myself, coming back into my creativity, my expression, coming back into my own like divinity, but also like coming back into our own sensuality as women, because that's how we are. We're wired for that. And we got shamed, going back to shame.
Mm-hmm.
I had to wear a t-shirt to the beach. I wasn't allowed to show my body, like it was bad or shameful. So, you know, learning how to come back into relationship with ourselves. And then when we have that relationship kind of, you know, feeling good, then we can extend that and share that with another human, and you know, it'd be reciprocated. So you know, for me, my own work has been coming back into connection with myself, all parts of it, especially my femininity. As you know, women, we've kind of been taught, you know, to keep up with the boys or work like a man. And that's where we have all this adrenal workout, and, you know, we have to meet these standards. But we're made to be women, and we have our own strengths and superpowers that are so needed right now. So coming back into right relationship with all of those parts and pieces.
Yeah, we see it so frequently too, that whole feminine masculine energy balances. And I know that, you know, we have a tendency to just get out there and get things done, right? That's all masculine, but there's a really beautiful way of taking care of things and allowing room to receive. So I know we were paused there for a moment. So, but I was just saying the whole feminine masculine blending, you know, we need both. And we don't need to be all one way or all the other either, you know, like you need to be able to receive, and you need to be able to be in your feminine stuff of flow, and that love that comes through, just how we're such you know, let the love actually flow through, and not you know, be desensitized about our feelings. I mean, that's
Yeah.
That's
So
really
true.
so powerful for us.
Yeah,
And
so true, Debbie. We are meant to be, we have so much love that flows through us that it hurts when we have to contain it and when we can't share it with other people. So, first for ourselves, to fill our own selves up, love our body, love our, our feminineness and our creativeness and our emotions, because that's what makes us great healers. When we're emotional, we are so in tune. We can tune in and feel. But it's, yeah, also then we're meant to like share that overflow of love. And it does hurt us when we can't share that love. And I know I felt that myself in my life as being, we love so much, um, and loving ourselves first in the fullest, like loving ourselves so fiercely.
mhm. Yeah, it's so, I think we've all, I know I've experienced it too, where I've loved another individual more than I actually loved myself. That was part of probably what triggered so much healing once that relationship ended, which was, in the long run, a good thing, right? And now that it's become imbalanced as a friendship, and understanding what that looks like, I think it's also what makes us such powerful leaders too. I know there's a lot of information out there too about when women are leading, when we're actually balanced and we're a leader, we can really have such huge impacts on the world, whether that's leading our family or leading a department or an organization, like where we have that natural empathy that can come through and balance the activities with acknowledging the other people. I really think, there's been a lot of research on that too, as more and more women have stepped into those roles, of how powerful it is. And another reason for us, to embrace all of ourselves and heal. And so,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And
it's so
mhm,
true. Stepping into the masculine leading, but leading from the feminine essence for the feminine leaders. And right now, the women are rising in huge amount of ways. So,
yeah,
yeah.
it's so, so powerful. Um, I have I had written a note too, the stepping stone to bridge the unwinding. And I think the work that you're doing is so important as that bridge to help people. If they, sometimes I don't think people understand, like maybe they're in a spot where they don't know what's that, a restless feeling, or they're just, they couldn't say they're happy, but they're not unhappy. They're in this space where they're not feeling that joy or the bliss that they might have felt when they were younger. And I think the work that you're doing to help bridge those gaps, to help people get down to those root causes and really get to the roots, is so,
Yeah.
so important. So,
Yeah.
so now
It's
if,
so
mhm,
fun. It's so fun to do the work too. It's so purposeful. So um, people just need to understand what's going on with them. And I feel that when they do understand, just the light bulb goes off and they understand more about themselves. So they're not beating themselves up or shaming themselves or thinking something's wrong with them. It's just them just knowing how they're actually operating, and they just haven't been told anything different, because their natural state has been always to be, a deep feeler or this way or super creative or connected to the divine. And we've been misunderstood. And so when we hear that it's okay that we're wired this way, then we kind of settle into our body and go, oh yeah, like this feels good. Like there is nothing wrong with me. And then just tweaking things, pulling out some of the weeds and getting people connected to joy and their purpose. And then they're on their way. And then the journey just keeps continuing.
Yeah, I love that. And that's probably why you have the pillow in the back even that talks about joy. Who doesn't want to feel
Uh,
joy? You know,
yeah.
such a powerful thing. So now, Shelley, if people want to reach out, they're feeling called to reach out to you, how can they connect with you?
So I believe you'll have a little link to my website. So shelleytomlin.com. Um, People can go on there. I have a 15-minute chat. I like to have a chat available for people because people like to ask questions, and then we see if we're a good fit, or if I feel that, you know, someone else can help you with something more specific and I feel that I can't, so then I'll refer you to someone else. So there's a 15-minute chat, and that is then I can direct you to like, what is it that you're needing? Like we kind of do a little bit like, what's up? What are you needing? What are you looking for? And then in there we make a plan. Um, I usually direct people into like a package of sessions because, like you mentioned in them before, people want to
Mhm.
have one session and they want to be like healed and all that. So I now put people in a package, whether it's Akashic readings or we do energy healings. Everything is all healing energy in
Mhm.
our bodies and all parts of us in any session. It just depends, you know, which avenue we want to go. I'm starting to lean more into the Akashic readings as I'm learning that it's like 5 or 6 Reiki sessions in one. So we can do more stuff in the Akashic field in a shorter amount of time. And we can bust through generational stuff, societal, religious, all kinds of things. So it happens sooner than over like 5 or 6 sessions. And I'm like, well, that feel in my brain, I'm like, well, that feels more effective, efficient, and the results are quicker. So I've kind of been leaning into that piece, but people still like to receive an energy healing where they're laying on the table or laying on their bed if we meet remotely. And this way I go in and kind of feel, you know, what's going on in their chakras, what needs a
Mhm.
rebuild, what needs a restructuring, because we can also, our chakras also need a restructure or a rebuild. And this fits for how I wanted to be a nurse long time ago, but I didn't fully step in the program because I didn't want to go through 4 years of training. And so now I just say I energetically nurse people, still love them up and take care of them. So that feels more aligned with my soul. So I love that. So they can contact me that way, and then we just go from there and set them up with whatever they need. Sometimes people need to be a little guided, and I like to hold people's hand a little bit until they have the confidence to step into their own power more, and then empower them to then choose for them, because we've been taught to wait for someone to tell us what to do. And I want to empower people to find their own voice and then they choose. So I do a little bit of hand holding to just kind of get them into that next step, because that's what was given to me. And it was so appreciated to have somebody, you know, right in the mud with me, crawling
Mhm.
on the dirt and cheering me on while I figured it out on my own. And that made such a difference in somebody who fully supported me. So,
Yeah, I think that's so important, Shelley, that you do that with, helping you help yourself heal yourself, but you're not there alone. You're actually being guided and supported so that you don't feel lost or you feel like you're going to get stuck.
yeah. Yeah. It's what I've learned along the way is that we need someone to hold the space for us, but they also clients can only go as deep as they feel that the healer can hold the space for them. So they will, so if they don't feel safe, they will not go down to the deep parts. And I kind of like to go there, not because I feel that's the most, the transformation that's available. That's where things kind of need to happen. So yeah, it's important to have the right person for sure.
Yeah, I call that going to the deep end of the pool. You go there.
Not everybody likes it. Not everybody likes me after, but it's okay.
Once they finish and they're on the other side of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true that you really have to be able to trust and sense that they really are holding the space for you, because sometimes it's just, if you're not used to feeling or experiencing some of those deeper feelings, can be a little unsettling, I guess, or it can be uncomfortable. And it's, especially if you've stuffed it down, or you were told to stuff it down, or, pull up your big girl pants. And, we have all kinds of sayings like that, right? In our society, pull up your big girl pants and deal with it. And just get over it. And yeah, being able to hold that space with people, it's beautiful to help them through that. So thank you so much, Shelley, for being here with me today. It's been such an honor and a privilege to be able to share, all the magic and all the joy that you are bringing people to their own joy within themselves, and help walk them through and remembering their worth. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And it was such a great time just to be here chatting and just sharing that just with you and I. So thank you for having me and just having this space. And yeah, I love what I do, and it feels purposeful to connect people to their own purpose as well too, because we're looking for that too, and it is in joy as well, in living in joy.
Right, it is. And I'll include her link, with her website in the show notes, just for those wanting to reach out. And thank you for being here with us.
Yeah. Oh, and I want to just say too, I have a short free meditation if people want it. When you get to my website, shelleytomelin.com, there's a free gift. It's just a little meditation that I have there, potent and fabulous. And so that's just there for they can have access to that when they sign up.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, they can keep in the loop of my email community. And because I do offer a lot of free healings, wisdom shares, truth and love bombs, and just offerings too. So if they want to be in my community, be in my space, they can just sign up for that, and then we can stay connected.
I love that expression, love bombs. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Great. Well, hopefully they'll go and receive the free download, and really be able to soak up and receive some of that blessing, healing that you're sending out to everybody. So I will add that also, that specific link in the show notes for everybody. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Debbie.